Dose, 2nd edition, how to play. The rules are the same as Uno, except for these changes. For a refresher of those rules, check out this video. After dealing, create 2 discard piles. You may play to either discard pile or both in the same turn. If you play 2 action cards, then both actions apply only to the very next player in turn order. You can combine the numerical values of 2 cards of the same color from your hand together to match the number of the top card in a discard pile and play to that pile. All number 2 cards are called Wild Dose cards, and they are a 2 in any color you choose. However, they do not allow you to control the color the next card must be, unless they are played on top of another Wild Dose card. The requirement for yelling Uno is removed and replaced with yelling Dose when you have 2 cards in your hand. When you play a Wild Play 2 card, you pick the color that resumes play for that discard pile. Then, the next player must play at least 2 cards on your turn. If they can't, then they play nothing and draw 2 cards that end your turn. If playing for points, Wild Dose and Wild Play 2 cards are worth 50 points each. Smokers as well. In fact, that's going to be much more effective at smelting down the ores that we brought home, since we have a bunch of raw iron and raw copper that really need processing. We'll grab some of the charcoal from here, we'll feed it into this blast furnace setup, and now both of these furnaces are going to be processing the iron at twice the speed of furnace would. The thing to bear in mind, of course, is that blast furnaces and smokers are specialized workstations. Blast furnaces will only smelt precious materials. They're only good for processing ores, raw iron, raw gold, raw copper, and they can smelt individual ore blocks if you acquire them with Silk Touch, although that is never the most effective way of getting everything you want out of that block. Fortune is always going to be better at getting the precious resources, with one small exception, and that is nether gold ore. If you're able to Silk Touch nether gold ore, then you get the full block instead of breaking it down into gold nuggets. Now with Fortune, it is possible to get a pretty decent amount of gold nuggets. Let me chuck these out in my inventory so we can Fortune this and see exactly how many we get. We got 2 from that block, so really not that many. From the next block, we ended up getting more than 2. We ended up getting 12. So it is possible to get more than the value of a full gold ingot out of a block of nether gold ore if you use it for Fortune. However, on average, it is better to put these in a furnace and smelt them, because that way you'll always get a gold ingot out of them, and on average, that gives you more gold than fortuning blocks of nether gold ore. You can get lucky and get more gold from using Fortune, but it is much more reliable to Silk Touch this and smelt it for a full gold ingot. So with our blast furnaces now finished smelting all of the iron that we have fed into them, and these furnaces still merrily producing charcoal, I want to get into the main task for this episode, setting up a larger scale automatic smelter, which players typically end up calling a super smelter. We're going to take down all of these hoppers and chests and stash them in our inventory for later, because we're going to need a fair amount of those for this project. We've also got plenty of charcoal from smelting that initial batch of logs, so that's going to be our fuel source for the super smelter, at least to begin with. And we're going to be using regular furnaces for this super smelter, for the simple reason that they'll be able to process anything we throw in there, from food to ores to stuff that can't be smelted in either a smoker or a blast furnace, like glass. We can obviously specialize later if you want to create an automatic blast furnace or an automatic smoker. All you need to do is substitute the furnaces for the specialized types of furnaces, and make sure that you only input stuff that is compatible with those blocks. Food for the smokers and ores for the blast furnace. But in total, we are going to be crafting and using 8 furnaces for this super smelter. It can be expanded later if you want to add more to the setup, but I think 8 is a nice number, in Minecraft terms at least, for the amount of stuff that we want to smelt at a time. A full stack of charcoal split 8 ways between 8 different furnaces will leave 8 items in each of those furnaces, which in turn will be enough to smelt 64 items per furnace. So it seems to make sense if we're going to be inputting fuel and items in full stacks. Having it divide by 8 like that just seems like the logical mathematical thing to do. And that's why I've smelted all of this iron beforehand, because if we're going to have 8 furnaces, then we're going to need to have 3 hoppers per furnace, which means we'll need 24 hoppers. I made a few extra just in case, because it's always a good idea to have hoppers around. But really, the first thing we want to establish is exactly where the output for this furnace is going to be. We'll just need 1 chest for this, although it's going to be a double chest for the sake of having a decent capacity to it. I think we're going to leave that right here, a couple of blocks away from the end of this platform, although the dimensions of this are probably going to change once I've figured out a house design for it. Into this chest we can place one hopper, and then we can attach 7 hoppers to the side of that. Each of these is going to be pulling items out of the furnaces. So our 8 furnaces are going to be placed on top of those hoppers, and the hoppers form a chain depositing the items in this chest once they are done smelting. Then connected to the back of each of these furnaces, we're going to place a hopper facing into those so that that can deposit the fuel, and along the top of the furnaces we're going to have the input hoppers going into the top. Now the next question is, how are we going to transfer items into these hoppers? Are we going to have a row of double chests along the top of this? Well, no, not exactly, because we want to split our items evenly between all of these furnaces. We're going to use a system of minecarts and rails. Just to keep it simple, we're going to create a couple of chest minecarts for this, one for the fuel input and one for the item input. We can always come back and adjust this setup in future. We've already got some powered rails and regular rails, but I think we'll probably need to craft some more. So let's make sure we have some sticks. Let's make some powered rails. I think, yeah, 24 or so should be enough. We're going to need some redstone power sources for these as well, so we're going to craft a couple more levers. I think we'll need 3 for this. In order to fill these furnaces, we're going to have a section of powered rail that runs across the top of each of these hoppers. Once we get to the end here, we're going to add one more block to this row of hoppers, place another powered rail on top of that, and that is where our minecart is going to reverse direction. Having this final piece of powered rail on there is actually quite important, since we need the minecart to linger over the top of this hopper for long enough that it will deposit 2 items, and if the minecart simply returns from this point, it might only deposit 1 item in the hopper, and then all of the items will get spread unevenly. We're going to do exactly the same thing with the fuel input line over here, and this is the point where we need to be a bit careful about how we place the rails, because sometimes the rails will decide to connect at a diagonal if we place them like this. The same will go for over here. We still need to crouch to place it on top of a hopper, but yeah, the powered rail is going to connect diagonally, and then when we break them, they're going to end up in the hoppers, and sometimes the hopper is going to try and put them in the furnace, and then your furnaces end up getting clogged because powered rails cannot be smelted into anything. Anyway, the trick to making sure rails don't connect like this is to start the rail 1 block further over, so it already has something else that it's connecting to, and that overrides the rail's attempts to connect to each other, allowing them to run parallel to each other at a diagonal without shifting their orientation and connecting diagonally. Next, we need to find ways of powering both sets of rails without powering any of the hoppers, since if a hopper receives any redstone power, it will actually become locked, preventing items from moving in or out. So in order to power both sets of rail, it's pretty simple. We just need to place a solid block here and make it a redstone power source, in this case by powering it with a lever. That will light up both sets of powered rail here, allowing minecarts to run across them. Now we simply need to decide where our minecarts are going to be filled up from. Where is easiest for the player to access them? I think it's going to be easiest to remember if we keep the fuel line basically at the level that it is right now. So all of the rails are just going to run horizontally across there. And then the input line for all of the items we want to smelt is going to come down here, and the minecart's going to sit on a block down there, ready to receive any of the items it's going to deliver to the rest of the furnaces. Much like the minecart collection system in our sugarcane farm, we're going to have those start off on an unpowered section of rail, disconnected from the main section of powered rail here, using a regular rail. That way, we can simply flip a lever on and off whenever we want to send the minecart off, and when it returns to this area here, we can make sure that the lever is off. That lets us fill the minecart with fuel to send it off on its way, distributing items to all of those furnaces. We might be able to do the same thing here with this minecart placed on a diagonal piece of powered rail, but when we power that rail, it's simply going to roll into the block and look kind of glitched out. So we're going to need to give this one a bit of space, which means it's going to have to come down onto a second piece of powered rail down here, and from that we will be able to launch it up this extra piece of rail here and on its way back down. It did just jostle that other minecart up there, but that's not going to be affected by it. It's just a small bit of collision since they are neighbouring entities there for a second. Of course, right now, that's led to a pretty awkward entrance to what I'm thinking of as this neighbouring house, but that's fine. We're going to set up this whole thing in a slightly different position once I've decided on the house design. For now, though, this should be a perfectly functional smelting setup, and we're going to test it using a little bit more charcoal production. Let's grab a stack of charcoal to put that in the fuel chest. We're going to send that off on its way, and oh, it looks like that lever is now powering both sets of rails. Well, that's incidentally fine. Having sent the minecart off once, it's got 48 charcoal left in there, which means that of the 64 we put in there, 16 has been removed, and as we should now be able to see, if we check inside any of these furnaces, 2 charcoal has been evenly distributed amongst them. Now let's put a stack of logs inside the item cart here, and we'll send both of them off on their way. All of the furnaces will light up in sequence, and all of the items should now be distributed evenly amongst these furnaces. Each of these furnaces will smelt some more charcoal for us, and each of the pieces of charcoal will be delivered to the chest down here. They'll sort of arrive in batches of 8, since the smelting operations will complete in quick succession. And we can turn that lever off to make sure that the minecarts return to their stations once they're done loading everything up, and it looks like everything has now been delivered to the furnaces. Now, since we put in a stack of logs and a stack of fuel, obviously the fuel is going to be smelting fairly efficiently. We're left with 7 charcoal in each of these furnaces and a stack of charcoal in the chest, which we can now return to this fuel minecart, and that can start delivering it to the rest of the furnaces again. If we wanted to make sure that these power sources were separate, all we need to do is remove the lever from that, attach it to a different face of the block. It could even go on the end here, and that wouldn't affect the powered rail. It's just because the lever was providing power to the space above this powered rail, and we can rearrange this setup here if we want to. This is just one of the simpler ways of doing it. But really, that is all we need to know for a very basic, very simple, but very effective automatic smelter setup. We're going to break down all of this raw iron. We should have enough to fill up a bunch of these furnaces. So we're going to put that in the item chest. We're going to set the ball rolling here with the fuel, and we're going to activate the item input. And now all of that iron will be smelted as well. Of course, the blast furnaces would smelt it twice as fast, so if you want to create 8 blast furnaces to get your iron smelted faster, then you can do that. But really, the only thing we're missing out on is time. They both use fuel just as effectively, they both provide the same amount of experience when you gather it, and they'll both give us the same amount of iron output to this chest. Now at this point you may be thinking, hey, that's all very well, but do I really have to break all 8 of these furnaces every time I want to collect the experience from them? Because that's quite a lot of experience for smelting that amount of iron. And I have some good news for you. You may remember earlier that I said any redstone power source that's powering an adjacent hopper will lock that hopper, preventing items from being put in or pushed out. Well, that is the case for these furnace hoppers here, which are directing all of the output from the furnaces into this chest. And if you want to, you can attach a lever to the face of the furnace, or if this looks a little bit awkward for you, you can put it maybe on the floor next to the hopper. And if we power this block here, that will power the hopper next door and make sure that no items end up getting taken out of the furnace. And at that point, with whatever mending tool I want to mend in my hand, or maybe just an open hand if I want to get some XP back, I can remove the smelted items from that furnace, and it will still give me all of the XP it had accumulated up until that point. So if you wanted to, you could put levers on the floor here and individually switch off the output hoppers, allowing you to collect the iron as it was being smelted. You'd collect one at a time, you'd still get the rest of it from this chest down here, but you would also collect all of the XP by doing that. And with the amount these are going to be smelting after us digging out those huge iron veins, that is really going to add up. So it'll be worthwhile having some method of extracting the XP from these furnaces. And breaking them, while yes it will work, does require you to replace them afterwards, and you're waiting for all of the items to go through to this chest. It can be kind of a hassle. If you want the levers to be a little more discreet, you can always put them around the back here, but obviously if you power a lever here, it is still going to power the block above it as well, which means we are locking the fuel input hopper. Not that that's going to be a problem when this minecart isn't running, but just something to bear in mind. So now we've covered all of that, I'm just going to let this thing run for a while. We've got a lot of iron to smelt, a lot of copper to smelt, and all of it is going to be useful to us in the near future. So let me unpack some of this stuff that we got from our huge vein of iron. I might keep a few of the raw blocks of iron and copper around, since they might be kind of fun to build with, and it is possible to farm iron ingots from iron golems and copper ingots from drowned zombies. We'll get onto that in a future episode. Whereas there isn't any way of getting raw copper and blocks of raw copper other than digging it out of the ground. So you might want to consider in the long term keeping more of these around when we switch to more automatic farming methods for the smelted materials. Anyway, in the meantime, it's a little too early for that, and we have so much of this copper that we could be turning into building materials. So I'm going to load up this chest minecart with that, make sure we have enough fuel going into the furnaces, and we're going to let this thing run for a while. Now, with all this automatic smelting happening, I think it's a really good time to talk about fuel and the way we use fuel typically in the game. Now, we've already talked about the most effective fuel source the game has, which is a bucket of lava. Every time you put one of these in a furnace, it can smelt 100 items. Before the fuel depletes, the furnace burns out and we need to add something else. But one of the main disadvantages to using lava, aside from the fact that 100 items can't really be smelted unless you're babysitting a furnace or using an automatic setup, is that lava buckets are not stackable. Items like coal or wood can stack up to 64, whereas lava, you can only have one lava bucket in a slot at a time, meaning that you can feed them in automatically from a hopper, but each hopper is only going to be able to store 5 lava buckets, and then, a chest attached to that hopper could store 27, or a double chest could store 54, but you're going to have to go out and acquire those lava buckets individually, filling up your inventory, maybe even your ender chest with them. So while lava is a pretty effective fuel, it still needs to be gathered manually. There are dangers involved in that, and overall, it seems like a good idea to have other options when it comes to fuel for your furnaces. The next most effective fuel source is one that we've already talked about, the block of coal, able to smelt 80 items into more efficient use of regular coal. Incidentally, you cannot make blocks of charcoal, which is the main thing that distinguishes coal from charcoal. And while coal does require caving to go and acquire out in the overworld, it can also be farmed renewably once you are fighting wither skeletons in nether fortresses. So while we think of coal as a fairly precious resource and people like to try and preserve it or use it effectively, in the later stages of the game we'll be able to farm enough coal that it won't matter whether we use it to smelt 1 item or 8. You might still prefer to use your coal as efficiently as possible and make sure you're smelting 8 items every time you use a piece of coal, and that's entirely fine. That's a perfectly reasonable way to play the game. But the next most powerful fuel source is one that you might not have expected. In fact, we've overlooked it in the series up until this point. Kelp grows abundantly in ocean biomes. You won't find it in rivers, but anytime you venture out into an ocean biome, you are likely to see a lot of these kelp plants waving at you from the bottom of the ocean, and we're going to gather some of that because our next fuel source is a block of dried kelp. Kelp can be dried out in a smoker, because believe it or not, dried kelp is actually a food. It's not a particularly effective food, it's more of a snack than it is a decent meal. If I quickly take a little bit of damage to make sure that my hunger depletes fast enough, do a little bit of running around, I can actually eat this piece of kelp, and it will eat faster, I believe, than most other foods do. But as you'll see there, it only restored half a point of hunger, making it a pretty ineffective foodstuff. However, we're here to talk about kelp as fuel. Once we've acquired 9 pieces of dried kelp, we can craft those into a dried kelp block, and when put back in a furnace, the dried kelp block will smelt 20 items, which means that, like charcoal, dried kelp is one of those fuel sources that can actually smelt itself renewably. As long as you have a steady supply of kelp, you will always be earning more fuel than you use. Although you've got to consider that for every dried kelp block, for every item that you can use to smelt 20 things, you need to smelt 9 items in order to get there. So realistically, it's only providing you enough fuel to smelt 11 items because it needs 9 to create it in the first place. Despite this, dried kelp blocks remain a pretty popular fuel source, and honestly, kind of a stylish building block when used in the right context. Not to mention the dried kelp blocks can also be broken back down into dried kelp, so they are fuel for the body as well as fuel for the furnace. The next most effective fuel source is blaze rods. Blaze rods will smelt 12 items each, and once or twice in this series you might have noticed me putting 12 items into a furnace along with a blaze rod. So as fuel sources go, blaze rods are worth your consideration. They are relatively easy to farm, and once you are brewing fire resistance potions, you should have no problem just camping out at a blaze spawner with 24 minutes of fire resistance in your pocket and a lot of blazes spawning around you. With looting 3 on your sword, you can get a whole lot of blaze rods, which means powering a furnace for a good long while. And they're also stackable, unlike lava buckets. The next tier of fuel is coal and charcoal, which we're pretty familiar with at this point. They will smelt 8 items each. They're also useful for a variety of other things. You make torches out of both of them, and both are renewable in the ways that we've already discussed here in this video. Beyond that, a surprising variety of wood and wooden items are usable as furnace fuel. You'll end up with planks, slabs, fences, boats, all of that stuff, even crafting tables, even bookshelves can be used as furnace fuel, although personally in my book, if you do that, you're a bit of a monster. You can also even smelt saplings if you have an abundance of those but a shortage of any other fuel. Now, one other fuel source it is potentially worth considering is bamboo, but it's important to note that you will need 4 bamboo in order to smelt a single item. The reason for this is because bamboo can be crafted into sticks, and 2 sticks will smelt a single item, so it makes sense that 4 bamboo effectively equates to 2 sticks. If we put it in the furnace with this raw copper, you'll notice that the bamboo gets destroyed incredibly fast as that arrow creeps along, and it'll all be gone by the time this copper has been smelted into an ingot. A block of bamboo is made of 9 pieces of bamboo, and yet that will only smelt 1.5 items per block, so that's even less efficient use of your fuel. In fact, if you break that down into planks, each of these planks will smelt 1.5 items, so you'll end up with twice the efficiency if you create bamboo planks, and those can be crafted back down into 4 sticks, and that will smelt you 2 items, but the 2 bamboo planks will smelt you 3 items, so it's better to use planks in this case. And that ratio carries over to slabs as well. You will need to spend 4 slabs in order to cook as many items as 2 planks. There isn't any kind of loophole you can get more fuel out of smelting slabs. It doesn't work that way. But finally, the other things which might be worth considering using as furnace fuel are renewable items that you get from easy sources like skeleton spawners, for example. I can use each of these bows as a furnace fuel and they will smelt 1 item each. You can even throw your original wooden pickaxe into a furnace if you want to, and that can help you smelt your first iron if you don't find any coal anywhere. And one last source of fuel you may not have considered, but wool and carpets can also be burned as a furnace fuel, although they are fairly inefficient. I think 2 pieces of wool is enough to get you a single item, and carpets break down into a similar ratio. They will do basically like 1/3 of a smelting operation. So while you can get a stack of carpet in here, it's not going to last all that long. In this case, we're going to be sticking to large-scale fuel sources because we are doing large-scale smelting operations, although it looks like this is now getting closer to burning down through the last of our copper supplies, and look at the amount of copper we have now smelted down here in our output chest. Along with the iron, it is a princely sum, and I need to start converting this into blocks just so I can store it somewhere. But I think at this point it's safe to say that we've covered all we need to on the subject, so I'm going to briefly pay a visit to the Wandering Trader since I can't resist seeing what he has to offer today. He's got some coral blocks, which is something we haven't encountered in the wild as far as I'm aware. There might be a warm ocean somewhere around, but I don't think I've run into a coral reef. And blue ice, likewise, is a pretty rare resource, so you might consider trading some of that. But you know what, for now, I think we're probably going to wrap up this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. As I mentioned, I will be planning on building a house around this, at which point we'll probably reposition the super smelter to somewhere a bit more convenient, but hopefully this has given you some ideas of how you can up your smelting game in your own world. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. My name has been Pixlriffs. Don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you folks soon. Take care. Bye for now.
Did it seriously? I forgot how hard this section is.
Start out with the Feather Cup, which begins with the Athens Dash. And, you know, I always complain about all these, real-life ones. They're a little bit boring. But I'm glad to see that one of these, they just go straight back into fantasy. Places that aren't real. From, fantasy novels.
Hero.
Athens. It's a nice change of pace. I'm joking. It's pretty. It's really basic, just like most of them. But it's got nice
all worth it
visuals.
for the money.
Just all of the pillars and stuff. The moments are very brief. Whenever you get a video of the whole thing, that's good. I would say the best part about this track part where like you make a turn, then the big baby face Teletubbies comes up over the mountains and it talks to you in my dad's voice. That's the have the garage. That's a nice touch. Didn't have to go that far, but quality. Nintendo seal all you get. Next we got Daisy Cruiser. It's a good one. It's a little short, but you know, it's a nice cruise ship one. Yeah, deja vu, but I don't know, it's nice. I like the tables slide around. And I like the part where you can keep on the high road, or you fall in, you like fall into the aquarium. I wish I played with that a little bit more.
Whoops.
Did all sorts of stuff in there. No, I mean it was good though. It can try to hit the whole menu for the next few years.
I got this.
Yeah, a lot of stuff in my nose.
I'm being genuinely challenged again. Wow.
Taking a bit. Let's recover. It's going well though.
I'm pretty sure Krauser's gonna be the same. Gonna be hard as balls.
Oh, Moonview Highway. Moonview, that's a nice one. I really like that one. That's pretty. It's real pretty. I like that. You got the nighttime. You got the moon over the water. Like when you cross the bridge, and then like as you cross the bridge, and then you enter the city, and all the lights. It's real nice. It's a real chill. I like real nice, pretty chill ones, you know? And then you mechanical had string together and pop on cars. That's a fun one. Let's say that. It's one of my favorites. I like that one. You know what I'm less a fan of? You hear the words mustache dressing. Like just those words, that combination of words, the real thing, not nearly as fun or pleasant as you would expect. It's based on just those words, what they are, mustache dressing. It sounds fun. It sounds the real thing. It's not super fun though. Sprint. Okay, so like obviously
That's where he is.
the original track is gonna be standout. Obviously, this is a good one. It's a good one. This is really good. So it's actually just visual detail. So much. All the little items all over the place. You're flying around, twisty-turny. Go in a bathtub. And you get sucked down the drain and you're going through the pipes. That's cute. That is cute. There's like a wedding ring in there. Really, really good. Lots of fun stuff. Really nice. Big problem. Big problem. Don't drive on the toilet. I wanted to get flushed down that toilet, or at least drive on it and go right over it. It's pretty unfair. It's a great course. Yeah, you know, it's original, it's fun. All these original courses, they've been well. It's so visual. Lots of fun stuff. So that's a standout, and you know, it's like 800 times better than like the next best one on this list, you know. So much better. cannot even describe. Words cannot possibly describe how gross my yawns taste. And it's impossible. Yawning is tastes so gross. Cherry Cup. So that's the first four. We got Cherry Cup. Start with Los Angeles Lab. So I think this course is funny to me. I think it's really funny how, like, you know, they do these wonderful, like, condensed, concentrated, very idealized versions of real-world cities. I like how even in Mario Kart they kind of struggled to make LA look nice. You know what I mean? I mean, like, I know a lot of people live in LA. It's a city for, you know, it's the people that makes it cool. But, like, the city itself. I like how you start out at the beach and it's like, hey, yeah, the beach. The first lap it's the beach, and then by the third lap you're going through, like, the bloody industrial area. It's like, oh, man, let's get out of here. All of Mario Kart people, all the characters are like, oh boy. Let's get back to Peach's Castle. Oh, I like to look at that crowd over there. Oh, I gotta look at their nice shiny cars. I'm sorry. So that's a fine one. It's fine. I don't know. Oh, my neck hurts so bad. That's the thing, though. Recovery. It's been like, yeah, the throat and the nose, that hurts, but oh my gosh, something about, there's not like neck pain, just like debilitating neck pain. Just sit back for like days, everything was really. Oh, I didn't sleep more than like a couple of minutes at a time. Neck pain, yeah, I think so. Maybe with the adenoidectomy. Usually kids get that. So there's like no info online about it because it's usually for kids. Everybody say I'm just a great big kid at heart though. Heart and adenoid. So yeah, the neck. Oh, it's okay though. I've been taking. I'm just taking acetaminophen. Is that Tylenol? Yeah, it's helping. It's good. Things are getting better.
I am the fucking strong.
Where were we? Sunset Wilds. This one stinks. This one, I don't know if it's Super NES or GBA, but it's got nothing going for it. It's just whatever. It's got the Shy Guys. It's got the, like, dancing Shy Guy miners. Dinosaur footprints, that's really it. That's it. That's a stinker. I finally got around to watching Better Call Saul. Watched the first season or so. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Played some Demon Souls. Man, I really thought I was hot stuff, you know, playing so much Dark Souls and Elden Ring. I thought Demon Souls, you know, the game is not fun.
Awesome.
It's fun.
I think you might have found your calling.
Really just tried really, really hard to make it as not fun as possible.
Kai was also pretty awesome though.
I'm playing it. It'll work itself out. I don't know. Demon Souls so far. Ugh. Yeah, Koopa Cape. It's a cool one. Koopa Cape's cool. It's like you got cool, like, cliffside and like going down a river. But then it's like kind of industrial, kind of construction-y, you know, you got like the big metal shells. It's fun. Well, it's nothing special. Oh, the neck though. Like, why? Oh, not bad enough. My roommates have been so nice. Housemates, they bring me water, smoothies, and empty smoothies. Fill up my humidifier. It's So nice. Everyone is so.
Let's go take care
so
of that
nice.
thing. The request I refuse to accept till now.
Vancouver Velocity. The last one we got here? Yeah. Oh, this one's beautiful. This one's really nice. Yeah, it's a nice one. It's a real world one, but it's kind of good. It's just pretty. First lap is over like a bunch of like bridges going through the trees. That's beautiful, you know what I mean? That's my ring. The tree stuff, second lap, on nighttime in a park. It's really nice. And then the last lap is just kind of nothing, and it's like the stadium again. I don't know, that's so disappointing at the end. And there, it's pretty good though.
Of battle on you, mate. Welcome.
Pretty
Here's
alright.
a
A
knife.
selection of good things on sale, stranger.
Oh,
Ruby's all rubbish. Well,
no, I'll say, hold on. Let's give the final thoughts before I get into that part. Overall, I'd say Wave 5 easily the weakest. I don't know. I think, did I say it last time, but everyone else thought it was cool? I don't know. I think this is the weakest, which is fine, as always. It's still just more tracks to play, so who cares? But this is more variety, it's fine, but it kind of feels like they're scraping the bottom of the barrel here. they're running out of ideas. The character's cool, though. That's cool. It's cool. I'm not gonna ever change my loadout because I don't want to mess up my stats that I can't play for. I got my specific play style. But yeah, I don't know. We got one more after this. Cool. Got the stints out yesterday. Oh my gosh! Look, listen. If you need septoplasty, you gotta get it. You know?
give
For,
that the cat pleasant travel.
Bilateral inferior turbinate reduction. You gotta do it. This is great. It's a great decision. I can breathe. Seriously, breathe. So that's good. You gotta breathe. You gotta get your oxygen. You gotta get it. So I don't want to freak anybody out. It's been okay. It's been fine. I just say that getting the stints out was, I say intense.
Oh, hey.
It was intense. It just kind of yanked it right out. Oh boy, it's fine. And it was over. And oh, I feel great. I breathe a little bit. So now I actually like kind of sleep because I can breathe through my nose. Oh my gosh. Oh, he just pulled him.
Ashley, this will be
Please
your
pull
home
it right out.
for a few minutes.
Oh boy. It's fun. It's been fun. It's been a good time. Mario Kart 8. So many words. I don't have a paper for that. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass TLC Wave 5 Feather Cup and Cherry Cup. Yeah, I don't know. 4 out of 10. That's a rating. Why am I rating that over there? Who cares? And Septoplasty bilateral inferior turbinate reduction adoronectomy.
Whoa, it already has
8 out of
spikes.
10. Would recommend. Good time. So yeah, I don't know when I'll get back to, really recording videos. Streaming and stuff. I didn't really sleep. And then like last night, I had a little, so I'm gonna keep doing that. I think that's the plan. Instead of sleep. I haven't sleeping. I had eggs this morning. I chewed up and swallowed and everything. Woo! Look at me. Bye bye, I love you.
Oh, that killed it. Holy shit. Let's fucking go. The stray shotgun shells just very luckily.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Landed on off the weak spots, like wow.
Took care of her. Well, look at you, mate. Walking up.
Well worth it.
Come back anytime.
Left there, a little bit further, a little bit left there, a little bit close. Come on, it's never too early. We don't keep it badly, I'm ready to go. Can't help but guess it's a habit, guess it's all fun, but just what I do. Come on, why don't you get nervous? All the people say unbelievable. It will hit you before you know it. That all the people know. All the people know. I am not afraid because I sing tonight. I'll show ya. By now you should know I win all the time. And it's gonna be dangerous if you get in my way, 'cause I never stop till I get in my way.
What's going on with that shit?
We get to protect the U.S. from any and all threats.
Alright. I'll redirect you. First, we have to make it out of here.
Was I blocking her pathfinding to that place? Blow up the place. You can run, but nobody survives. Yikes. They're supposed to be making pressure. I can't have that. There's no going back once I get there, so. Tonight, I'll show ya. By now you should know I wait all the time. And it's gonna be dangerous if you get in my way. Just I never stop till I get in my way, yeah. I am on top now, feeling non-stop, yeah. When I come through, I come through, I come through, I come. Except it's an assault rifle. Are we playing a game actually? I know it was a good idea to check the map before proceeding. Baby, I told ya, and this I'll show you. I'm crazy, I'm a monster. I'm gonna down on the boxer. It's you, the you, the end of the eye. I want to wanna hear you cry, and that's what you say goodbye. And it's all morning night. Treasures are around here. Ah, how did I miss this?
Recently,
The Wolf Jackson cover, I don't really care. I hate how YouTube doesn't play songs on their own anymore. If it recognizes it's a song, it'll put it as a mix. But that's so lame. I am not afraid because I see you tonight. Show ya. Right now you should know I can wait all the time. Gosh, damn, I forgot how good that song is. And it's gonna be dangerous.
Break's over, I
Getting
suppose.
my way, cause I never stop. Getting my way down. I am on top now, feeling unstoppable. And I can feel like I'm a machine gun. Da, 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 da. I'm ending this chapter. Ain't stopping the recording till I do.
Tears of the Kingdom is officially broken. How about a team post? Or perhaps, how about it literally lets you be basically no clip and fall through any object? Or perhaps, how about an infinite durability Master Sword that can never break no matter what you do? Tears of the Kingdom is officially broken. So, let's break down all of it in this video. But first, I gotta pay
Is
the bills
this place
somehow,
exactly?
so a quick word from today's sponsor.
I know what it is.
Are you ready to embark on an epic journey?
Fuck yeah.
Introducing Honkai Star Rail. This is a brand new strategy RPG game to the Honkai series, made by the creators of Genshin Impact. It's a role-playing strategy featuring strategic turn-based combat system with large maps, which includes base exploration and puzzle-solving gameplay. And just like Genshin Impact, this game features great story, music, cutscenes, and much more. But
They
none of
got
this really is possible
speedrunners as
without
well on
great
the
characters. So, let's look at one of the main
sponsorships.
characters.
Yikes.
Meet Ji, who's one of the 6 generals of the Alliance who is leading the mighty
He was
Cloud
the
Knights
banner
of Shade
during
Yalvav.
this video's
And not
upload.
only does he have a great laid-back personality, but he's also incredibly powerful. With incredible abilities and his exceptional multi-target AoE system, it's an easy choice for anyone's party. And best of all, this game is out right now. So, check out Honkai Star Rail right now by clicking the link in the description of this video. And when you start playing, you can use the promo code on the screen right now or in the description to get 50 free Stellar Jades. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link and get started. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video. Hello everybody! So, in today's video I'm going to cover 3 main things. First, I'm going to be covering how to get an infinite durability Master Sword. Then, I'm going to be covering how to basically upgrade that Master Sword by using a glitch known as Zuggle, which leads us into the first part that you saw in the intro of this video, which is how you're able to multiply different effects, and also how you can basically achieve an overload state where you can clip through objects and you can name it. So, with that being said, let's get right into it. The first thing that you need to understand in how to be able to obtain the Master Sword with infinite durability is you need to understand one of the mechanics of how to in weapons. If you already know how to do this, great. If you don't, it's going to make it really fast and great.
I don't know what prostrate means, but I wouldn't do
Have a
it
weapon out in your hand.
if
Then
I were
what you want
asked.
to do is you want to save the game.
Bastard.
Once you've saved the game,
All I know is it's an
you go into
action
your
word, a
selection
verb.
screen,
drop the weapon that is in your hand, and then equip
Must
another
ask
one.
for what
Then
action
just simply unpause and pause very
it
quickly,
is referring.
and then go over to
What
this
else to
system
do?
and click on load save file the one that you just made. And as long as you unpause and pause quickly enough right there, what should happen is that there should just basically be a weapon that is just going to be sitting on the ground right where you were, and you can just literally pick it up and bam, you've now duplicated that weapon. So you can see now I have 2 of the exact same weapon. So that's literally it. That's how simple it is to duplicate a weapon in this game. But there's one important thing of why I mentioned this method, because there are other
What's up, y'all?
weapons. That one grants weapon saves. That later. By the way, now how to duplicate a weapon through save files. We're gonna get it. So the first thing I want you to do is head over to this specific shrine in the sky. This is the shrine that is most people the second shrine.
Believe there's
It's
always
going to be
some
the ability
machine
to
gun ammo
mine.
inside
This
this
is going to
tent.
be where you basically first were able to get the fuse ability, so you're able to fuse objects together. Simply just warp over to there, and then what you want to make sure of is that you basically get an autosave when you enter the shrine. If you don't, you can leave and re-enter, but most of the time, I would say 80% of the time from my experience, once you enter the shrine, you should be able to get an autosave. So we're going to warp over here. You're going to see a saving in the bottom left. We don't want one outside, we want one inside. But hopefully you should get a new autosave as you enter here. So you can see, side of it, autosave, saving in the bottom left. Perfect. And now we're just going to make sure that we really have this autosave. As long as you have this autosave, you're good to go. You didn't leave and re-enter until you get this autosave. This autosave is very important to get this trigger. Anyways, now when we have this autosave, what are we going to do? Well, what I'm going to do in this ride that I'm in right now is I'm going to make a manual save, and then what I'm going to do is very strange. It's going to make sense later. I want you to click on Go to Title Screen, go back to the main menu, and then I want you to click on Create a New Save File. Now don't worry, when you click a new save file, it is going to give you a bit of a warning saying like, hey, you know, like you can lose your progress. Do not worry, it will not happen. And I'm going to explain why in detail. Because basically there are 5 autosaves and then 1 manual save that can never be overwritten unless you manually make a new save. So that's why I said not only do you have the autosave, but also the manual one in case you somehow mess up. But it should not be a problem. How autosaves work, generally speaking, is you should only be able to generate 1 autosave every 5 minutes. So if you are in an area where an autosave takes place, and then you go into an area where another autosave should happen, we'll just replace the previous one. It should only make 1 every 5 minutes. Anyways, once you're in this area, I want you to basically skip the cutscene as quickly as possible and just run through this until you've gotten to the room where you take down the keys. You might be a little bit confused about this, but that's because we're actually going to steal a cutscene Master Sword from this area onto our main save file by doing a couple more glitches. So I'm going to cut right here until I'm at the end of this and I'm in the room with the keys. But either way, once you're doing this yourself, literally just run through it, go through the text, it's super easy. I'll see you over there. Alright, so after taking down the keys and you're in this room, I want you to run down to this main corridor right here, and do not go all the way down to activate the fight cutscene with Ganondorf. But either way, run down partially down this corridor, roughly to about where I'm going right here. And then once you are here, I want you to basically stop and make a manual save. Before you do, click on load, and just make sure that you do not have more than 2 autosaves. And that's just like a general group practice backup, so you definitely do not run autosave. But you can see I only have 1 autosave, meaning that even if I make my manual save, there's no risk whatsoever.
Didn't sell that
So,
for
at this
10,000.
point, I'm going to make a manual save right here, and don't worry, like I said, you have your autosaves here, you do not have to worry. I'm doing this in my main file, because I'm confident I am.
What can I
Make a manual
interest
save
you?
right here. Then once you made your manual save, I want
Good
you to
luck to you,
upload and
stranger.
go back to the autosave that happened in the stream. Now, I need to explain something for you to understand fundamentally how the stream works. I'm going to simplify it as much as I can, but basically, when you do this duplication glitch and you transfer a weapon from one file to another, right, like I just did with my main one, the beginning of this video,
Don't get yourself...
technically speaking, let's say that I duplicated my weapon right here, and then I load a save that is
Killed now.
Take this
Well,
knife
What
here.
happened is
Gotta
the
select
sword
some
actually
good
dropped
things
in
on
that
sales.
separate area, not in the
Not
shrine.
that come
Because
back.
where it determines where the sword will drop is actually based on the coordinates of the game. So let's say I drop something at 100, 100, 100 right here. If in another shrine it's like, let's say in a corner, this is where at 100, 100, 100, and I load a save, it would drop right here. Hope that makes sense. If not, you don't have to worry, but either way, I just like talking about this. So that's roughly how it works. Now, we're going to abuse that fact because most shrines are very close to the coordinate 000. And that starting area in the beginning of the game is also very close to coordinate 000. So what we're going to do is we're going to line up the coordinates of Link in this shrine to be the same as the corridor we just had in the beginning of the game. So first things first, take this rock and get it over here. Then take this small rock and attach it here. I also quickly want to mention before we continue, by the way, in the description of this video, I'm going to be linking
There you
every
go.
single person who has helped discover, contribute, and also work on these strategies, because this would not be possible without the amazing work of the community. So definitely check the description of this video, and a massive shout out to everyone who's helped with this. But anyways, once you have this rock and you have it like this, what you want to do is you want to put it against the wall, and you want to put it alongside this line right here. Because the objective is to be as close to this wall as possible, while also being as high up as possible. So, put it about right here. Now, I will say, as someone who's tried this before, when you get on top of this rock, you will kind of just slide off. So basically, the second you are standing on that little rock, I want you to pause the game, right? And I also recommend you, by the way, to have a two-handed weapon equipped, which is for my personal preference. It doesn't have to be, but I just find it to be easier to use a two-handed weapon. But either way, I'm going to jump on top of this rock now, and then I'm going to pause my game. Then what you're going to do is you're going to drop the two-handed weapon you have equipped, and then equip another weapon, and then unpause and pause my game, right?
I've prepared.
Then go to the right, you click on Load Save, and load the manual save that you generated with the Pyrocast.
Watered by the blood.
And if you timed it correctly, you should be able to transfer the weapon over into this corner.
No.
If you didn't time it correctly, you can just reload that autosave and try again. You can see, bam, the weapon just dropped, and this is also why you can see that you have to be in the middle and high up. You can see it kind of drops from here, so this is just like the only place where the coordinates kind of match up. Anyways, you can press A to pick this weapon up now. And you will see that because this is the first weapon I've picked up, it will unlock the weapons portion of the pause screen. Meaning I can actually now use and chop this Master Sword. And this is not, as you can see, the real Master Sword. It's called MSG Not Found. So now we're ready for the second part of the glitch. So first, I want you to do a manual save now. If you fail the second part, you don't have to read the first step basically. So make a new manual save. Don't worry, it's just going to replace this one, so you still have the exact same setup. Then what I want you to do is I want you to walk up to a specific part of this corridor, and it's actually right here. So you can see that this is kind of like a half archway, like a circle.
Mine is kind of all I
down.
really
And the way I like
wanted.
to look at it is
As long as I
like
have
this
one.
pillar that is broken on the side right here.
It's an
And
escape.
then right of it
It's
is
a
like
literal
this patch
bomb.
of dirt that walks in. Once you
Ooh,
find
I
this
can
round,
tell.
walk up to like around where this big step is right here, and then you're ready for this. At this point, pause the game while you're standing here, go over to the weapon screen, and then drop the Master Sword that is equipped, equip the Ruby Crusher, or whatever item you transferred over, unpause and pause quickly, then go over to the right, click Load, and load the
There's a needle
autosave
here.
that is in this shrine. Now, if you time it correctly, you should be basically
Cute.
transferring the weapon that you just had, which is in this case the Master Sword, onto your main file. So hopefully if we did it correctly, once we go over here to where the coordinates are for the starting area, you should see a Master Sword. Beautiful. As you can see, MSG Not Found. I don't have weapon space.
Keep having to use this place in the arena.
Drop a weapon. And then you can pick it up, and bam. At this point, you're done. Now, you do not ever have to go back to the beginning of the game, and you are in your main file, and you have this one called MSG Not Found. So, I recommend you to make a manual save right now, and then bam, you're done. You don't have to ever go back, and now you have it. This is a fake Master Sword, which is in the start of the game called MSG Not Found. This Master Sword behaves just like a Master Sword. You can shoot the lasers with it. It has infinite durability, and it works perfectly. So if you're just happy with that, you can just continue to play the game like normal now with an infinite durability weapon. You're welcome. However, there's still one more thing in my opinion that I kind of want to do, which is I would like to use a weapon with this. Or I would like to fuse a material with this. However, if you try and drop the material and try and fuse it with the sword, it will say you can't fuse it with the weapon. Because unfortunately, you cannot fuse with the intro fake Master Sword. Fortunately, there is a glitch to do this. Now, this is a little bit more complicated, but if you're willing to try for maybe 5 minutes, trust me, you'll be able to do it. So, at this point, I'm going to teach you how to do it. This comes into the next glitch. This glitch is known as Zuggle, which I showed at the beginning of the game. Basically what Zuggle is it lets you stack weapons and hitboxes on top of each other. So you can basically hold out 2 weapons at once, and then you can repeat it to hold out 3 weapons at once, then 4 weapons at once. And this can be used for getting like multiple effects out at the same time if you want to have it for like combat or flex, but also you can do it like dozens of times so the game is taking up so much memory that certain things start to fail to actually work. For example, like when you warp, you use a character model, or when you jump on a steering stick, the collision fails to check, so you just fall right through the ground and basically giving you no lift. There's a bunch of stuff. I'm not gonna like do dozens of times right here, but you only have to do it 1 time to perform this. Alright, so how do you do it? Well, first things first, there's going to be a difference depending on the version you're on. If you're on version 1.0, you can just literally stand in the middle of this thing and just follow the steps. If you're on 1.1 or 1.1.1, which is the newer version, what I'm on, you have to slightly change the setup up, but it works on all versions. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this Zuggle, which is basically going to cause a desync in between the inventory and the overworld. So what we're going to do, if you're on the newer version, is you're going to want to go against a wall like this, and then you want to put about 1 length of space in between you and the wall. And you can, like, if it doesn't work, you can kind of retry it. But let's just try it around this. This is roughly around, imagine that like 1 link can fit in between me and the wall. Then when you're there, you want to press the Y button to have the sword out in your hand, the master in this case. Make sure you do. Then have at least 2 sticks or 2 weapons of any kind that have not been fused to anything. And you can do this with weapons, but for simplifying sake, I'm going to recommend you drop 6 shields. Now, if you don't have 6 shields, you can do weapons, but I'm just using shields to make this more easy to play. So, what you're going to do once you're this far away from home is you're going to drop 6 items, preferably shields or weapons. We're going to do shields. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then you're going to go to the right, and you're going to drop the Master Sword that's in your hand. After the 6 items, as a 7th item, and then equip a non-fused item. And then what I want you to do is I want you to do a super quick unpause and pause. Unfortunately, it seems like my distance wasn't good enough to wait for the wall because I've already got the Master Sword back, so that means this is not going to work. So, in that case, it's either the pause timer or my distance away from the wall. I'm going to try and reposition it, take out the sword again, and then we're going to try it again. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Drop, quick, drop. Okay, now you can see the Master Sword is still in Link's hand, like through the thing, like through the blurry background. And it's being dropped right now. Now this means it most likely works. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop my second weapon right here, and then equip the last non-fused item, and then do a quick unpause and pause again. And if it worked, you should see that the Master Sword came back to your inventory without you picking it up, which resulted in, like I said, a desync in between the main menu and the overworld. So if I now leave this inventory, you should see that I actually have 2 weapons in my hand. I have both of the Master Sword and the stick, or whatever item I used. This means we're ready for the next part. Now what we can do is we can drop a material that we want to fuse onto the ground, have both weapons out in your hand, fuse it, and it's going to say you're going to fuse with a stick. That's fine, that's how you should do it. Then, once you have this fused now, I want you to open up your inventory and then drop the weapon that you're holding, and then leave the inventory. If you do that, both the Master Sword and the stick should drop to the ground. Only pick up the Master Sword, do not pick up the stick, and you should now see that you get a weird glitched icon Master Sword. It should say MSG not found as a message, but it's fused with an object, and now it has 67 damage. You can do this with anything.
We done
And
here,
now
Krauser?
you have an infinite durability and fuse one. You can pick up the shields, by the way, or any other weapon you drop, just not the stick. This stick is basically just gonna go bye-bye. But either way, that's how you do Zuggle. That is literally how you perform Zuggle. So if I were to repeat that exact same thing without moving, I would be able to get 3 items man, then 4 items man. So I just continue to do that over and over and over again. And if I make sure to use elemental weapons, for example, let's say this Ruby Crusher, because it has like an element, this adds a lot of life to the game.
Power.
If I were to use this weapon and do it about 1 dozen to 2 dozen times, that's when you start getting the desync with the model of Link. That's when you start being able to fall to the ground and do all of that. But either way, like I said, Tears of the Kingdom is absolutely broken. However, there are more things that are found. There are so many more things. I'm actually going to make a part 2 to this video because this video is already so long. And I'm going to have more of a focus on random glitches and also movement glitches. That's right, we finally now have some incredible movement glitches. So definitely be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel because in the next day or 2 I should be uploading part 2 that's going to be documenting all the other glitches that have just been found. So that being said, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you're going to see a tutorial on how to use materials or other random tricks like that with Recall, you're going to screen right now. Another random video you're going to screen as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate that, and I will see you all in the next one. Later, everybody. Bye-bye.
Right, here we freaking go. What happened to the ladder?
Oh, shit. Are you ready, rookie?
Holy shit, I parried!
Let's settle this. I'm not surprised you made it this far. Your strength is everything. The weak can protect nothing. The way you're going, there won't be anything left to protect. You'd have known that once. That's where you're wrong. I didn't know anything. Now I do. You can't deny this.
Ah! I managed to parry and get it and keep up good momentum thanks to it. Hell yeah. That was lucky as all fucking hell.
What you have to do.
But man, I didn't get to listen to the Krauser box fight theme that much. Shame, because it's a damn good song. Breaks up with that red mark. Whoops. Get wrecked. Oh. Leon refuses to aim at Krauser's dead body. And also, maybe Krauser really isn't dead. There's like leaks that there is the Ada chapter coming out as DLC. Let's see that death count. Yikes. Still better than my previous runs so far. Apparently though. Alright, looks like I'm gonna have to end it here. I'm just gonna go to the merchant and sell some shit. And then that's it. actually kind of see everything you need to deal with in here, huh? Yeah, there's the last part.
Their defenses are no joke. That's gotta be their sanctuary. Ashley!
And the shit we're dealing with. Is this entire complex. Only I could snipe them from this distance. Unfortunately, those are just those are like 2D skyboxes, I'm pretty sure, something. Rather than actual people. Leon probably doesn't have the skill to shoot that far.
Welcome. What can I interest you in? Suit yourself.
I'm gonna use one.
Stranger. Welcome. That's
Right,
good
the fighting
work,
knife
if I do say
ended
so
up not
myself.
being as useful as I hoped it would be.
Come back anytime.
Get that back out. Probably bring the biosensor scope ahead of time.
Welded. What can I do you for?
Oh, it still counts as a healing item.
Ruby's all rubbish. It makes no
That
difference.
sells for 10,000 if I remember
Price.
correctly.
That's our choice to make. Stranger. Ooh, I'll pay a pretty penny for that.
Yeah, we have
Stocking up
20
while you
in
can.
storage now.
Wise choice.
I'll go buy one
Better
of
to be
these.
over prepared. Well, that
Make another flash. I haven't gotten the Magnum ammo. Maybe I've just been really unlucky, but I think it's hard-coded for you to not be allowed to get any more Magnum ammo once you have 10 or more. Which is a bit lame if that's the case. But well, I'm perfectly fine with this. Or actually, no, the hand cannon is Magnum. As long as I have that, I will get Magnum ammo. I'm pretty sure. So, don't know.
pleasant travels.
What if I sorted it like this? Oh, I crafted with 5 gunpowder. Oh well. In the end, it seems I'll still have to play one more time. Running out of treasure to get. Pretty much all out of treasure to get. The rest are just spinels, which I suppose I'll use. But yeah.